Today's guest on the Inappropriate Growth podcast is Maurice Thibodeaux, a visionary creator and a passionate connector. This man is dedicated to empowering individuals to embrace their fullest potential. With a profound commitment to personal growth, he illuminates pathways toward purpose and abundance. I find his journey fascinating. He's created the life inventory assessment. This thing is scary good at discerning what's really going on in your head. It guides self-reflection and unveils hidden opportunities. Basically, a compass for personal growth. He also has a life activation process, a transformative process that invites individuals to step into heightened awareness, an immense invitation to life itself. He emphasizes tapping into our inner source, the most potent fuel for living abundantly. He hosts I Am events that foster community transformation. Maurice's diverse career includes tech leadership, corporate contracts, and banking. His business acumen enriches his holistic approach. He's also a master hypnotherapist, a CCF life coach, and he's been coaching and training for over 15 years. From his humble beginnings to where he is today, Maurice's journey is a tapestry of resilience, wisdom, and inspiration. So get comfortable, open your mind, and prepare yourself to be inspired. Let's get started. Welcome to Inappropriate Growth, the podcast where we get real about the grind behind the glory. I'm Paul, your host, and I'm here to take you on a journey through the untold stories of business triumphs. We might raise some eyebrows, but it's all about the hustle and we don't fit the mold. Here we're talking about the kind of effort that doesn't just push the envelope, it shreds it to pieces. We're building a community where the norm is to defy norms. So buckle up, because we're diving deep into the beginnings that were anything but humble, the times when giving up seemed like the only option. We'll also dig into all of those wild, insane, and out-of-the-box strategies that led to massive growth. From growth hacks to best practices, this podcast will be fast, furious, and should be a whole lot of fun. Join us as we redefine what it means to grow and turn business growth into an art form. Welcome to Inappropriate Growth. All right. Well, welcome to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast. I'm Paul Angel. Today we have Maurice Thibodeaux. Maurice, why don't you tell us exactly where you are, how you got there, and what do you do?
Okay, well, I am physically north of Winnipeg, Manitoba. My wife and my kids and I live on 80 acres, which we like to say we live in the middle of nowhere where everything's possible. And I try to live by that, sometimes maybe a little too much. How we got here, I didn't know if you meant physically, but how we got here was actually following the path of our dreams. It's actually kind of a cool story where in my 1920s, I ran into this book called The Power of Focus, and I really believed that we should write our visions down. And I'd done that, and I wrote this vision of a relatively simple life. It was a page and a half long, and I described like the exercise encourages you to do, describe where are you exactly, what's around you, what does it look like, and I wrote that out thinking, oh, this would be cool to live one day. And about 10 years later, I had a friend email me. Actually, it was a text on my BlackBerry, and he's like, "Hey, dude, you need to look at this place." I'd shared this vision with two people, that friend and my wife. And he texted me, and he's like, "You need to look at this." I ignored it. I was camping at the time, and he sent it to me again 3 days later. I clicked on it. I'm like, "Wow, it's got a wraparound deck. It's got a pond. It's got trails that you just explore it. It's 80 acres. It's it was an 8 out of 10 things if I were to list
Right.
of things that we could do to create. So my wife and I had no business, no interest in moving. We looked and we're like, God, we're going to do that. We've got 3 kids under 6. We're not moving. Grandma is less than 45 minutes away. We are 7 minutes away from work. 3 days later, we felt sad about that decision. And we're like, why don't we just throw in an offer? We'll put a whole bunch of conditions on it. You're a lawyer, you know that you can get out of an offer pretty easy. and we'll just go look at it. Went and looked at it and decided, let's try this experiment. We moved, and that was now 13 years ago. I do retreats on here. We host festivals in the summer. It's been a reality come true. So sorry to launch into a super long answer, but
Well, no, but that really
that is physically how I got here.
explains a lot. We first started talking about the life inventory assessment. Your
Yep.
DNA's all over that thing. So what I'm curious, what sparked your passion for personal growth that led you to your part in that assessment?
Yeah. Well, it's eerily actually appropriate to like where did I live? Right? How did I get to where I live? Because the how that got how the assessment got built was from my own personal practice, and that personal practice is from when I would say a business geek to begin with, but I had this personal development slant that I didn't even understand until I really kind of dove into it. But the business books that I would read were all people and authors like John Maxwell and Canfield and like that had this like vision, purpose, right, focus. And when I started to face the personal decisions in my life, like the big ones, when you're in at that stage, like, am I gonna like, do I marry this girl? Was one of the big ones. Um,
You don't make that one
and
too
what,
many times.
yeah, right. Spoken more like a divorce lawyer. um, I got really conscious about it, and I started to. I'm a natural creator. So I started to connect all the dots and like what's similar here? What are all these businesses that are built to last? What are they doing? What are they focused on? What's the underlying elements of these authors that I'm attracted to? And it's purpose, it's values, it's mission, it's clarity, and then also it's the work, right? It's the work. It's not just, oh, you said it and you forget it, you put it on the wall. No, it's the work. Like you said it, you think about it, you make sure it's aligned, life hits you, you got to stay in alignment with that. And I wanted to selfishly build a life of awesomeness, of purpose, of passion. So it's like I'm going to do the work. And hey, if we're going to be together as a couple, I went to my girlfriend at the time. I think it's important that like you're probably doing the work too. So let's go on a retreat. And we went on a retreat and I gave her my workbook and I actually shared that vision. I was one of the first people I shared that page and a half vision with. And I asked her to create her own. And then I said, let's compare. And that workbook led into a values exercise that I got from one of my professors way back in the day. And then since have gone through several others. But now it's like, okay, we got to make sure our vision is aligned with known values. That led into goal setting. It's like, okay, well, let's really kind of break these down into what are we going to accomplish this year? What are we working on? What does that look like? And when you put all that together, it's actually a lot of stuff. It's a whole workbook of stuff. And after doing that for many, many years, every year we go on a retreat, like several points in the year, we're looking at this thing. When I got into coaching 6 years ago, when I left my corporate job, and I'm like, okay, this part of my life, this category is no longer fulfilled. I'm not using my intellectual and creative talents the way I know I could. I'm not feeling connected anymore, both socially and to like the vision. And my work life satisfaction isn't where I want it to be. And I've always been a proponent of like we spend way too much of our lives, way too much working to not end um like at least from talking about from my circumstances, and I think most of the probably people listening to this, we are working within a privileged opportunity of some pretty huge abundance, that if we're willing to take some risks and if we're willing to boldly say I can do better, I think it's open to us. It's open to us to at least try, to at least know what that looks like. And I would have been a hypocrite if I didn't try. And I went and I tried. And that led me into coaching, which I went to my foundation. What do I know that works? I had created this framework to look at life and to get clear really, really fast. Where are you? What do you want? Where's your focus going to be at now? And what's next? And then also my work in emotional development to really look at what's really in the way. Um, so I combined all of that in an inspired step to say, I can build this. And I know the relative steps to do it. And people need this. So we step out on the journey to build this thing called the Life Inventory Assessment. And it helps people in a more quickly and profound way than anything I've ever experienced in all of my self-development meanderings. It helps people to find focus and set their direction to live that purpose-filled life. Not without doing the work,
Right.
because the work's always going to be there. But if you're like, am I aligned? Where like all this stuff that when that's not kind of intact, this is a coach's super tool. This is a personal development junkie's kind of super tool to really know where the heck are you in life and answer the question and kind of have a map, literally a map, to help guide those goals and that direction. So that's a long answer to say what it is and how I got there, which is, I think, what you asked me.
All right. And I'm suspicious that my opening remark question may have answered part of this, but was there a pivotal moment when you realized the immense impact of activating one's purpose?
Oh, that's for purpose. Um, I wouldn't break it down to a moment, because that's a really big question, and I was following what I thought it was before I knew what it was.
Right.
So I think it's layered and nuanced. So I can tell you in the beginning, I was doing it from a place I think of more of ego and more of fear of making the wrong decisions. And it was inspiration. So fear plus inspiration kind of yielded these are the right things I should do to live a purposeful life. And
And that
why not?
aligns with entrepreneurship, right? I mean, I can tell you as a new business owner, it's terrifying and exciting.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for everyone,
No.
but when you're operating out of fear and optimism at the same time, and you
Yep.
get comfortable in that space,
Yep.
the only barriers you see are self-imposed. If you
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned retreats, but were
Yeah.
there any challenges when you co-founded I Am Events? What kind of lessons did we learn?
Oh yeah, so the festival that I co-founded with my wife and with the original founder Keith McPherson. So there's tons of challenges. Starting something from scratch, um, and showing it in a way that enough people come to make this like thing that you birthed and put so much time and energy and attention to. I mean, that's and and to have it as a nonprofit arm, like that, it's not your main gig. It's a huge challenge, and it was very much like purpose following. Like if I wasn't enjoying all the conversations I had with the healers and the mindset and mindfulness instructors and the musicians, if I wasn't enjoying that part, it would it wouldn't have gone anywhere. So combination of like there's personal interest and passion put together with like I think this can make a difference. We think this is needed, and put this amazingness of people together that were like there's so many different ways to slice, how we should live, how we should heal, how we can heal, how we can experience fulfillment. There's so many different ways, from like whether or not you're following what the stars and the universe tell you, to whether or not you're in body movement and just aligning your body, meditate. There's so many ways to put that all under one roof, being the sky, and combine that with music and celebration. It was a magical experience. So I'm not talking about the challenges, I'm talking about the outcome of those challenges.
Right.
And at the same time, um, uh, and this is a message. If you have something, if you're listening to this and you have something in your community that looks really amazing, and you're like, I'll go next year, don't do that, because little things die because of all those little decisions of saying, I'll go next year. And that was one of the major challenges. Like, people are still calling us today, like, hey, I noticed you're not doing it this year. Like, where can I get this? We just got one of those calls on the weekend, and it's like, you got to have enough people say yes.
I remember you talking about your inner source fuel, right?
Mhm.
Can you think of a time when you may have felt stuck and that inner source fuel is what got you out?
Like, when I talk about inner source, um, I relate that to almost in a, in almost all cases, except external, like catastrophe. And even there, I think you'd find your way through with inner source. Is when we're feeling out of alignment. When I say out of alignment, so we're not feeling our inner confidence anymore. We've fallen prey to not knowing who we are or where we're going. We've lost confidence in our capability. We've moved into like a fearful place because we don't have all the answers. To me, and then that breeds to distrust, usually abuse of something, whether it's alcoholism or distraction, or like, that's what happens at the edges. And at the very edges, I think it's the worst. Like, it's depression, it's thoughts of suicide. Like, that's, we've fallen out of place with our inner source. We're looking everywhere else for it.
One of the most helpful things, and I don't necessarily know the answer when I'm saying it. I just, this gives me something to say, but it surprises me how much of a profound effect it has. But it's kind of the same thing. I kind of say, yeah, like we just had a hurricane in Tampa, Florida, and it leveled so many houses, and it was a problem, and I can't get to my office. And I didn't know what to say. So I said, all right, well, try to focus. How is this an opportunity for your business? Because no matter what happens with the roads and the climate and the weather,
Hmm?
your business, you're not on social security or guaranteed income, or you have to go
Yeah.
work and produce to how is this an opportunity? And after some time thinking about that, she came back with, well, I was checking at retirement communities and talking to people about updating their paperwork and finding out that some people's paperwork got lost in the storm, different little things like that. And it gave her a boon of business. And it's
Yeah.
not bad because that work that she did was helpful to those individuals and she was being proactive, seeing the opportunity. So I'm this opportunistic capitalist. So I'm thinking, what's the opportunity of this catastrophe?
Hmm. Yeah.
But it is a tool to keep yourself focused and not get distracted or stuck in victim mode.
For me, when I think of that strategy, like, that's a following with your head, right? Like, let your thoughts follow what you want to create, like the opportunities. And I think we need to engage our heads and our hearts with things like that to align, so that we're basically creating the opportunities that feel the best for us. Um, yeah, when I talked about leaving my job, I would say I fell out of alignment with some of my inner source.
Well, that's my
It's
next
like,
question. You're a former business banker, right? That's a transition. I mean, it was easier. I don't want to say it was easy. Nothing's easy, but it was easier because you were aware that you weren't necessarily aligned and fulfilled, and that was something you knew you wanted. How did you make that transition into leadership and coaching?
Yeah, it was a decision more from the heart than the head, where I had been feeling out of alignment, which means like so as somebody in a like I was in high awareness of what that meant. So it was like I'm feeling not aligned. I'm not giving everything that I can give. My skills and talents aren't getting put to use. As a visionary and activator and maximizer, those are three of my top Gallup strengths. Those things were not flowing. And either I didn't have the patience to see it through, or and after experiencing anxiety for the first, I would say, real time in my adult life, I'm like, what is this? How do I get rid of it? I don't like it. And those nudges led me towards a critical decision. On my 38th birthday, I picked up the phone and I said, it's time for me to go. I don't know where I'm going exactly. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know that it's been 12 years
An early midlife crisis.
and I got to find a new path, an early midlife crisis. So I went for it.
Okay. Hypnotherapy. I am
Yeah.
totally fascinated by that. And my knowledge of hypnotism stems from the parlor tricks, or the nightclubs, or the performers that would take someone from the audience and make them fall
Yeah.
asleep and then wake them up. And
Yeah.
but I know that hypnotherapy is not that per se. It's something else. But
Close.
how does your hypnotherapist? You are not the first hypnotherapist I've had on my show, by the way.
Oh, awesome.
And you're
Cool.
not the first hypnotherapist from Canada I've had on my show.
Very cool.
But how does that skill and that knowledge and that awareness, how does that help with or enhance your coaching?
Oh, it's easily the most used and effective tool in my existence as a coach, as a parent, as an individual to manage my own stuff. How it's the practice of hypnotherapy or accelerated emotional release therapy is the specific thing that I've learned. It's really about connecting what we're thinking in our conscious mind with all the stuff that is all the patterns, all the beliefs that are happening unconsciously, which is that's we're following an unconscious path for most of our decisions. Most of our decisions are based off of beliefs that we've had before and patterns that we've experienced. That's the safest route. It's the most efficient route, which our brain likes. And so we just do, we just do, we just do, which keeps us going in the exact same results, same results. And when that's out of alignment, and if we don't look at the subconscious mind to also change that, then you're working with less than half the deck, way less. And that's why therapy can take, like, just in my experience and opinion, talk therapy can take years and years and years and years and dollars and dollars and dollars and dollars with an outcome that's just a little bit better because you feel better being able to talk about it. That you've talked through it. It has some effect, but not the profound effect that actually creates the change you want to make in your life. Hypnotherapy combines those two. It allows you to just get relaxed enough, not quack like a chicken, not
Which is hilarious, by the way.
Not, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do any of those parlor tricks. What I do know how to do is get somebody in a safe and relaxed state that's authentic and create a place of trust where it can be safe for their unconscious mind and their conscious mind to have a conversation. And when that happens, it becomes like it's two parts of a whole. And now you're dealing with all the stuff to create actual long-term change and impact. It's some of the most, I would say, honored experiences that I get to be a part of when I do that with somebody. usually by the time they're willing to try hypnotherapy, they've usually tried a whole bunch of other things. They've spent a whole bunch of time and money, and they're just like, this still doesn't work. And then they're already in a high place of trust because they're desperate. Often that's the case. Business strategy and I love, like, I'm an idea guy. I could spend days doing that. I love that. And also, I've learned enough about the process from going through it that know that if I just spend the days on the playground, and if I don't put the other side of why those things haven't already happened, then it's like we're just playing on the playground and we don't really get to the place that the people want to get to. So for business, like, and that's what I like. My niche is business coaching, entrepreneurship. The coaching that I do is in that niche. It's, yeah, we'll come in and I've got this business background. I can help there. Um, I can I can spend a lot of time in that boxing ring and I love it. But it's I'm listening for the mindset, the limiting beliefs, um, the major challenges that will continue to repeat themselves, if not in your business and other areas of your life. And I want to grab those and put them on the table and say, hey, let's work through those too. That's They combined really, really beautifully. And then the other cool part is you take all the same things of healing, like all the same techniques that go through in healing, you cast those out to the future for business planning, for life visioning. It's like, okay, so what do you want to achieve? Well, let's slow down and actually bend time and go to the future and imagine yourself achieving those things. And I'll help people get into their body experiencing that, and that's fuel for the fire.
Well, in the process, it's one of those things. It's simple. It's just not easy, right?
Yeah.
You need motivation. That's my next question. What keeps you motivated? I mean, to empower others. There are some days you wake up excited and ready to empower others. Other days you probably have to work on yourself a little bit to get yourself motivated.
Yeah.
What's been the most successful tool you've used for that type of motivation?
It's connecting to the purpose and the people.
Okay.
So I literally will go back and I will look for evidence from the past. So I'm not delusional. um, I look for evidence of the past is like what's the difference that's being made. So it's like, oh, like, here's an email I got from so and so from one of my students. I might re-listen to some of the testimonials that I've like created. It's like, like, these are quality people making a tremendous difference, and they see and understand this work in how I've served. That's And sometimes I have to go look for it, because if it's not feeling abundant and present and it's feeling too hard and the grind is just like, I'll go back. Or luckily, I've got a partner that's in the ring with me. I don't know why I'm using boxing as the analogy. I don't even watch boxing. I don't necessarily love it, but anyway, she's like, she gets it too, and she'll remind me to look back. And
Well, an accountability partner is good to stay on track, but it's also a source of those reminders to be motivated, or the reminders,
yeah,
the connection, like you said, with
yeah,
the positive impacts you've had in the past. That you're looking for the
yeah,
evidence. Here's the evidence. It hasn't changed.
yeah,
What you
yeah.
did happened, and the work you do is important. I totally get that. All right. Well, lastly, what advice would you give to someone embarking on their own path? They're wanting growth and purpose. Probably both sides of the coin. What's the best piece of advice you could give?
Hmm. Uh, the best piece of advice I can give to that person that's going on their own path is, it's going to be a woo answer, but it's the truth. It's self-compassion. It's like doing that path that you described that you're on right now, that I chose to take. It does feel like a boxing ring. There'll be many times where it's like you're on the mat and you're bleeding and you're not sure if you're good enough to get back up. And when you're in that state, like what's the thing to pull on? It's self-compassion. It's like, it's like I'm already in the ring, so that's already good enough. And the next best thing I can do is stand up. And then from that place of self-compassion, I would go on to other pieces of advice like awareness and alignment and these other things, but you only ask for one. So I'm going to give it, which is self-compassion. And if you're a hardline business entrepreneur listening to this, and that sounds woo-woo, kind of not tough enough, I would just encourage you to listen to it even harder then. That's probably advice that your heart needs to hear before your head can hear it,
Right.
because because the hard edge will get you so far. Um, and seeing it through the lens of like you got this and keep going, and then expanding that to your team and to your customers. To me, that's getting in alignment with your inner source. If I go full circle,
I see that. Self-compassion.
and it's okay to not like you chose a path, and if the way of that path ends up not being what you're meant to do, or it's not your right timing or opportunity, you can choose something different. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't define you that you're a failure, or it doesn't. You got in the ring and you tried, and if that means that you're not connected with that thing enough to keep getting back up, pick something else.
Let's say people are listening and they want to know how to get in touch with you, or they want to know about your assessment or your retreats or your work or your coaching. What do I
Yeah.
tell them?
Go to Illumination Experiences with an s.com, or look up Maurice Thibodeaux and you'll find me. But my LinkedIn profile I'll give you. DM me. But if you go to Illumination Experiences and download any of my free downloads, then you'll be on my mailing list, and just reply to anything I send. That goes straight to me. So that's what I'd recommend.
All right. Well, Maurice, I really appreciate it. Exciting having you on. I'm a big fan of your inventory assessment. As a reminder, if you want to grow, however you define growth, if you want to grow, a lot of times you have to do something a little bit extra, maybe something inappropriate. Until next time, thank you so much. Thank you, Maurice. Thank you, guys. And see you next time.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.